learners, welcome to a world full of adventure where young explorers like yourselves will embark on this learning adventure in English 10 to take you to a whole new level of quests coupled with learning and honing of skills. I'm Teacher Sally, your guide in understanding today's lesson. So, equip yourselves with your module, answer sheet, pen, notebook, and of course, food and water. This is not going to be an easy quest, that's for sure. However, it will be memorable and significant. Everything you get from this quest, the good ones, learnings, fun, etc., and the bad ones, your confusions, frustrations, etc., will help you in your adventures in academics and in life as a whole. This week will be about critiquing a text that you read or viewed. As we go through this adventure, you are expected to 1. Identify the common elements of a narrative. 2. Evaluate sample critiques about works of fiction. 3. Write an in-depth evaluation of a story in the form of a critique. Does it seem difficult? Well, that's actually good. What kind of a quest is an easy one? Boring, right? There is fun and learning in doing something difficult. So buckle up, young explorers.
A critique to one's work or the way they have presented it, when done properly without bias, is a gift. I'm sure you're all set up for your series of adventures. However, let's first find out what you know about this particular adventure. On pages 2 and 3 of your module, there are questions that you have to answer. We'll do the first item together. The instructions are for you to choose the letter of your answer for items 1 to 7. To identify if the statements in items 8 to 11 are true or false, and to arrange the given steps of writing a critique for items 12 to 15. Write your answers in your answer sheet. Let's have the first one. Which of these terms is often used interchangeably with the word critique? A. Summary, B. Synopsis, C. Review, or D. Report? The answer is C. Review. Were you able to get the right answer? Pause this video and continue answering. You may start. Here are the answers for the pre-test. Check your work, then write your score. Number 1, C. Number 2, A. Number 3, D. Number 4, C. Number 5, D. Number 6, A. Number 7, B. Number 8, true. Number 9, false. Number 10, false. Number 11, false. Number 12, 4. Number 13, 1. Number 14, 3. And number 15, 2. Write your score. How did you do? If you have no idea about most, if not all, of the given statements, it's okay. This is a pre-test. It aims to find out how much you know about the topic. When you read a book and/or watch a movie, do you pick one based on recommendations, or do you just randomly choose one? If you do base it on recommendations, then you're doing the right thing. You will save money and time. Also, you will save yourself from disappointments. Most, if not all of us, would read the comments first before buying or watching in Facebook or YouTube, or before buying a book or a movie. In YouTube, for example, we do not solely rely on the number of likes that the material received from the consumers. Rather, we scroll down to the comment section. If the comments are not good, we skip it. If the comments are good, then we go ahead and read and watch it. Other people's evaluations or judgment of a material can come in the form of a simple comment that is highly opinionated, or in something more formal and informative such as a review or a critique. You might wonder, aren't review and critique the same? Well, they may be similar, however, they do have their own differences. Review would refer to an assessment about a recent material which generally aimed to promote or recommend that material to other consumers. Critique, on the other hand, is a more in-depth evaluation which is not aimed at promoting a particular material. Another difference of the two is that a review is written by someone who is interested in that particular field. Critique, on the other hand, is written by an expert in the relevant field. Therefore, a critique is more reliable. You can still rely on reviews. However, they're not as reliable as critiques. A critique can look at separate components as well as the overall impression of a material. This will be longer, of course. Our critique can be very technical since the critic has expert knowledge in the field. It can contain information like techniques, trends, etc. That is why sometimes a person who doesn't have any knowledge in that particular field, say medicine or legal thriller, may find it difficult to understand the critique properly. A review, on the other hand, may give you the main information about a piece of work. For example, if the review is about a play, it will describe who created the play, the actors, where the play was performed, its genre, its theme, and such. The reviewer will also comment on the quality of the work, overall impression, and his personal opinions. But he will not go into a deep technical analysis. Why? Because again, it is written by someone who is interested in that particular field and not necessarily a critic. I hope you are cleared about review and critique. In this lesson, we will be focusing more on critique or critiquing. Here are additional information about it. A critique is a thorough evaluation of a story, a novel, a film, etc. for the purpose of giving its consumers an insight into the material. It seeks to shed light about the content of a material in order to help future consumers understand better the material that they are reading or viewing. So will the material be worth their money? Will it be worth their time? And although a critique share the same root with the word criticize, it does not mean that the write-up merely points out the faults or flaws in a material. Another good thing about critiques is that they will also give you an idea of what you can read or watch next. You need to understand this lesson well because you will soon be asked to write a critique essay or a critical essay of a given material. You will be required to carefully study, summarize, and critically analyze it. There are 7 elements that you need to take into consideration for you to come up with a good critique. We have setting, characterization, conflict, plot, dialogue, style, and theme. These aspects, as well as the manner that they were presented, are studied so that the critic or you can come up with a valid evaluation on whether or not the material is good, beautiful, or significant, especially for the consumers. These elements were discussed in your previous modules. I hope that you can still remember them. If not, you can always review your previous modules. There are guide questions that can be used to judge a material. Let us start with setting. How well was the setting developed? Does it appeal to more than one of the senses? Say the sense of touch, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing? Does it inform or connect to other aspects of the story, such as character development and narrative style? Here are the guide questions for characterization. How well drawn are the characters in the story? Do we know enough about them to make them interesting and relatable, such as their life, their attitudes, their background? Are there unnecessary characters? For conflict and plot, is there a conflict in the story? But then again, if there is no conflict, there is no story. Is the plot interesting, original, and well developed? Are there unnecessary and confusing subplots? There are 2 guide questions for theme. How well does the story speak to the readers? Does it raise questions about life, or does it provide profound insights? The following are the guide questions for the last element. How distinctive or unique is the writing style? Are there literary devices or techniques used? Is it purposeful? Does the style remind you of any other authors you have read?
Having the answers to all those questions does not mean that a critique is good. You still need to plan how you are going to present them or weave them together so that there is cohesion and coherence. So, do not just combine the answers of the questions. That would show weakness and lack of creativity and brilliance on your part as the critic. Having the answers to all those questions does not mean that the critique is complete. There are still other details that you need to consider. These are introduction, body, and conclusion.
Typically, the introduction is the shortest among the three, say less than 10% of the word length. In here, name the work being reviewed as well as the date it was created and the name of the author. Describe the main argument or the purpose of the critique. In giving the summary, briefly summarize the main points and objectively describe how the creator portrays these by using techniques, styles, media, characters, or symbols. Note that this summary should not be the focus of your critique, and it is usually shorter than the critical evaluation. In your body, provide a systematic and detailed assessment of the different elements of the work, evaluating how well the creator was able to achieve the purpose through this. For instance, assess the plot structure, characterization, and setting of a movie or text, or assess the composition, color, and light of a painting. Another example, a critique of a research project would look at subject selection, design of the experiment, analysis of data, and conclusions. As we have mentioned before, it should deconstruct the work and identify both strengths and weaknesses. It should examine the work and evaluate its success in light of its purpose. Make sure that your arguments are supported by evidence. It could be from the material itself, such as a quote, and how these evidence support your evaluation of the work. These are questions that can help in your assessment. What are the aims of the work? Were the aims achieved? What techniques, styles, media were used in the work? Are they effective in portraying the purpose? What assumptions underlie the work? Do they affect its validity? These are other guide questions that can help you out. When you are crafting your body, start with the general impressions first, then move into the details of the technical elements. For shorter critiques, you may discuss the strengths of the works and then the weaknesses, or vice versa. In longer critiques, you may wish to discuss the positive and negative of each key critical question in individual paragraphs. This way, you can discuss or expound on your answer for each question. The last part is the conclusion. This is usually short. It includes 1. A statement indicating the overall evaluation of the work, and 2. A summary of the key reasons why this evaluation was formed. And those reasons should have been identified during the critical evaluation. Do not present something which was not discussed nor mentioned in your previous paragraphs. In some circumstances, recommendations for improvement on the work may be appropriate. Thus, aside from the elements of a good critique, you need to carefully plan how you approach your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. Let's sum up our discussion by pointing out the things that you need to avoid and the things that you need to do when writing a critique. We'll start with the things you need to avoid when writing a critique. Number 1, starting with I think, in my opinion, and I believe. Although starting your work with those phrases seems okay, it is actually not. It is a critique. It is obvious that that is what you think or that is your opinion. Using those phrases only weakens your work. Number 2, remember that a critique is not a summary, so do not summarize too much. Just present a brief background, then proceed with your arguments. Number 3, plagiarizing. Be a smart writer. Paraphrase effectively when referring from any material. If it's important to use the exact statement from your material, cite it properly. This is a big problem in your previous works. But if you still insist of plagiarizing, go ahead. But be ready to say goodbye to your points. Though I'm sure you don't like that, so do not copy-paste from your source. Number 4, neglecting the quality of writing and thoughts. Poor language and poor phrasing of arguments will not sound authentic at all. Rather, it will reflect lack of preparation on your part. Number 5, overwhelming consumers with information or facts. Although your work should have weights and should be meaningful, you need to choose which information to include, and you need to choose only the more important and relevant ones. This is to maintain the focus of your paper. The last but not the least, neglecting formatting details. This refers to the instructions given. The format and style indicated should be followed, such as paper, space, font, margin, etc. The following are just some of the things that you need to do. Number 1, always introduce the work. Do not assume that consumers know what you are writing about and that you don't need to mention some details anymore because that is not always the case. Number 2, to be able to write a good critique and help consumers understand the material, you yourself should know well what you are writing about. Hence, you really have to read or watch and understand the material. Number 3, balance your work with both strengths and weaknesses of the material. Avoid being biased. Be objective. To be able to do this, it would be a good idea to create a list of positives and negatives as part of your evaluation. The more perspectives you take into consideration, the more balanced your work will be. Number 4, avoid making categorical statements without any support of authentic facts and quotes. It is of paramount importance for you to provide supporting evidence to make your work appear strong and worthy to read. Number 5, this refers to the parts of the essay. You may begin with a brief summary of your work, discuss the strengths and weaknesses, then conclude with your point of view of the material. Last but not the least, this is important as well, proofreading. It would be a shame to lose a lot of points just because of typographical and grammatical errors. Aside from that, make sure that your work is written logically and it does not contain any factual errors. Are you ready to practice what you have discovered about critiquing? Let's find out. Make sure that you are comfortable and that your pen, module, and answer sheet are ready so that you can be able to do and finish the activities once you start. Let us take a look at Keating's critique on The Duplicate War, a review. Open your module on page 8. Pause this video so you can read the text and answer the questions about it. Once you're done, play it again. You may start reading now. Here are the answers. Check your work, then write your score. Number 1, D. Number 2, A. Number 3, D. Number 4, A. Number 5, C. Number 6, A. Number 7, C. And for numbers 8 to 10, the answers vary, so I will be the one to check that. However, make sure that you provided 3 sentences. How are you doing so far, young explorers? You've got your brain in gear on this. Before we have our main activity, tell me what you have learned about critiques by completing the acrostic of the word critique. Write important points about the topic. Those points should be written in sentences, complete sentences. The first and the last letters were already provided. Right away!
This time, we will put your learning to practical use. So put on your thinking cap, young explorers. Read and understand the short story on page 15, then do a critical analysis of it. In your introduction, mention the name of the author and the title of the work. Give a brief summary of the work and then indicate the elements you want to examine as well as the purpose of your critique. In your body, choose only 3 of the narrative elements discussed. Make sure to cite specific examples to support your analysis or evaluation. Discuss each element in separate paragraphs. In your conclusion, state your overall assessment of the story's value, worth, and significance. Give recommendations for improvement if necessary. Thus, your work should be 5 or 6 paragraphs, no more, no less. The rubric that will be used to rate your work is on page 10. Make sure to go over it before you start crafting your work. You can start with an outline or a brainstorming list. You can do this, young explorers. Have fun!
You have reached the final stage of your adventure. Congratulations for making it this far. For the post-test, choose the letter of your answer for items 1 to 7. Identify if the statements in items 8 to 11 are true or false, and arrange the given steps of writing a critique for items 12 to 15. Write your answers in your answer sheet. Pause this video so you can do the task. You may start now. Here are the answers for the post-test. Check your work, then write your score. Number 1C, number 2A, number 3D, number 4C, number 5D, number 6A, number 7B, number 8 true, number 9 false, number 10 false, number 11 false, number 12 4, number 13 1, number 14 3, and number 15 2. Write your score. How did you do? Were you able to get the concept of the lesson? I hope you had an educational and exciting adventure, young explorers. If there are things that still confuse you or you don't understand, you can trace your steps back and reread. However, if you fully and confidently understood the lessons, then...
Phew! That was something, wasn't it? I do hope that you will allow the knowledge and skills you gain from this lesson to help you evolve into knowledgeable and wise explorers who will soon make a mark in this world. Till the next adventure!